Hello, welcome to the show. Before we get started, it is the last few days to get your tickets for this year's boot camp, February 7th and February 8th in Phoenix at the Wild Horse Pass Casino. February 7th and 8th, 2025. You still have a few days, depending on when you're listening to this. If you want to start this year off right, this is the way to do it. You are going to come out of your shell. You're going to learn a legit process that's made multi-million-dollar a year producers. You're going to role play. You're going to get on stage. You're going to overcome objections. You're going to get your questions answered. We're going to have an absolute blast, no question about it, but it's going to be game on for perfecting your process. And for many of you, let's face it, for adapting a process, but really taking the work out of your day when it comes to the sales and communication and having just a streamlined process, step 1 through 5 of the things that I do on my calls. Very easy process to learn, but still a lot of work. But the first thing you got to do is show up. So get on wastenoday.com, register for the Waste No Day Boot Camp, get on Southwest Airlines or whatever, get your flight out here, get your hotel booked, hurry up. Time's almost up. The room's almost full. I don't know when we're going to do another one at this point, but this is the beginning of the year. This is when you have to set your year off. So I'll see you there. wastenoday.com.
To me, you are still a failure if you rise in your career, but you fail in your marriage or your family. You need to rise holistically as an entire human. That is the Waste No Day mindset.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you and looking forward to a great episode today. We're bringing in a new concept, and we're very excited about this one, where we are putting you, our listeners, in your own passenger seat. We're not quite sure how that actually physically works, but somehow you will simultaneously both be in the driver's seat and in the passenger seat at the same time. And Brian and I will happen to be in between. That's right. So we're doing listener questions based off of the very private and very exclusive Waste No Day Facebook group. Those of you who have submitted some, we're excited to answer those, and that's going to be our topic for today. And we're looking forward to getting into that. But before we do, we're going to spend a little bit of time breaking down an opening concept for you, and we're going to turn to Brian to start off with a quote.
I am much more communicative now when it comes to my wife and kids. It kills me to think that I could die in a car crash today and my wife and kids could ever ask if I actually love them. Justin Tatum.
Okay. Quote from a guest, or quote from a listener, I should say.
Yep. And friend. He's a trainer at A1 Garage Door. He was on Wiser Wednesday this morning as this records, and we chatted a little bit after the episode, and he threw that out in between whatever we were talking about. And I was like, pause, hold up, bro. Like, I need to let that sink in for a sec. It's like, I just assume, of course, and I'm like leaving for work. I'm kissing everybody on the head. Love you. But boy, you can bet when I got home today, it was like, hey, Dad loves you, right? Stop touching. Why are you, Dad? Stop being weird. And that was Amelia. But I love the mindset. It's such a Waste No Day mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's driving at the heart of leaving nothing out there, in the sports world, nothing on the field, right?
Yeah. Much unlike your and my beloved Lions defense here in the playoffs. That was not fun.
Brian, it didn't even occur to me to bring that up. But now that you've entered into that dialogue, it just seems like a really bad year for blue and white teams. You know what I'm saying? And blue and yellow teams for that matter.
Yeah, I guess Penn State didn't get it done either, huh?
No, they did not. They did not.
They didn't even beat the national champion this year, did they? We sure did.
Yes, and I think most people lost the bet on that particular game. So
yeah, I might be one of those.
Well done.
So I loved what he said because it's so waste no day, but it's like, man, he was talking to, and then he went on from there and he was talking about his team, and he's like, it pains me to think that a high percentage of my interactions and conversations with my team, be it the guys who serve under him or his authority, could be just in passing casual moments that don't mean anything. It's like, I'm only here for a minute. Like in the grand scheme of things for, the time of a hiccup. So why not make every moment as impactful as possible?
Yeah, Brian, I mean, if I could speak openly, I would have a desire that the people that listen to this podcast are obviously excelling in their trade and their career. But I would have a desire that it's far more reaching than that. That the attitudes, the mindset, the concept of waste no day, the guests that we have had on would speak into every area of your life and make you a better man or woman and drive you to become a better father, a better mother, a better son, daughter, sister, brother, parent, spouse, you name it, better all around. To me, you are still a failure if you rise in your career, but you fail in your marriage or your family. You need to rise holistically as an entire human. That is the waste no day mindset.
Yeah, here. And we spend most of our time talking about the career angle and the revenue production and getting paid more. But there is a piece of that to it too. It's like, and this is my biggest thing, I argue with these guys who are so anti-performance pay, usually from top down, like, it tends to be managers, owners, like control, like a little bit of that power. If somebody's going to make more money, they're going to come begging to me type thing. But there's also the technicians out there. Most of them are just, when you were ignorant to something and you thought it was one way and then you got there, it was completely the other. That's most of them. Or they barely tried it one time and were horrible at it. So now everyone who's good at it has to be like a bad person or something.
Yeah. I mean, take for example, like there was a time this year when the Lions looked like they were actually good. and then we came and we all felt ignorant.
Yeah, I feel you. The Eagles are still in the playoffs as this records, but we know that's not going to last long. But I have this conversation over and over, and part of the thing for me is like the reason that not only is it okay by me that we go out and sell products to consumers that are over and above what they just called us out for, but it's necessary to me. It's mandatory for me. It's like they can get more value out of our time together. I can get more money from my day that I took away from the wife and kids. So I'm going to go out here and spend 8 to 12 hours anyway. And I can either get $32 an hour or I can get $1,500 for doing the same amount of work. Now, one's going to take significantly more communication training, negotiation training, body language and tonality training than the other one. I'm going to have to put in the work. That's another reason a lot of people don't like selling and pretend that they just think salespeople aren't good people because they're lazy. And you know who they are. Go jump in those Facebook groups, click open the profiles and all the ones that hate salespeople and look at their lives. In every way they could be lazy, they're lazy. Doesn't take much viewing of the photos to see what I mean.
I think that same concept can be paralleled into family life, Brian. Like you can say, oh yeah, I spend time with my family. Okay. You spend time how with your family? Like
I watch Sports Center while they play on the floor behind me.
Yeah.
And I tell them, hey, quiet down back there. I can barely hear these guys.
On your phone, disengaged, like doing your thing, technically with your family, but not actually with your family or your spouse. You can take that as far as you want, but be engaged. When you're there, be present with them. And you will find that your commissions will go up in many ways.
Yeah. And again, if you're going to leave the house to quote unquote go earn a living, then earn every possible penny in every second you're spending. The guys that you have to shove out of the shop with a snow shovel in the morning to get out to their first call to start actually making the reason they left their family. I don't get it, man. I'm always like scratching my head. Like, how are you still here? There's no money to be made next to the dumpster. None. But if you're going to be away from the family, then go squeeze every drop out of it. And if you have time on the side between the two, use it to get better. Get yourself to the Waste No Day boot camp, baby. February 7th and 8th. Actually, as this airs, I believe it'll be in 4 days. So you better hurry up if there's any tickets left. Because what do?
It won't be the last one.
No. But we'll spend 2 full days. Literally every second of the boot camp is spent to make sure that everyone in the audience has a notebook full of ways to go out and make more money doing what they love to do or hate to do. Either way,
Yeah, man. Well, one thing that we love to do, Brian, is we love to highlight a guest, a reviewer, I should say, somebody who's taken the time, maybe a potential guest in the future, who knows, or maybe a guest in the past, because some of them have been kind enough to do that. But we love to highlight somebody who's taken the time to highlight us, and they've done so by leaving a review, and we appreciate that. Brian, who do we have on today?
New guy in Idaho. 5 stars. I just found this podcast, and it's not only informative, but also positive. Only those of us who are as tough as a cockroach will make it. And he did a little muscle emoji. Ridley 78. I don't get the reference, but let me say that this review was written or posted on August 24th of 2024. It's my cousin John's birthday. Happy birthday, bro. So I'm guessing that there was an episode around that. Sounds like something Tom Howard would have said, doesn't it?
Well, the cockroach piece?
Well, he definitely said, don't get out hustled by a crackhead.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
crackheads
true.
get up. It's time to get up when the sun's coming up. They're going to steal the copper off your job or just wiring out that new construction job we just spent days hanging. Like they're moving, they're hustling. Yeah.
Yep. I appreciate the review. Ridley 78.
Sounds like Ridley's older than me. I like that.
Well, I don't think he's 78, bro. So you still got him.
What? Barely. Well, I was born in 70. Never mind, mate. It's over. Forget it.
It's okay. It's all good. Now, we do appreciate you leaving the review, and I know it takes scant minutes from your day, which you, of course, you are not wasting any of those minutes, but we do appreciate the time that you've chosen to do that.
Yeah, and let me say, even leaving a review for some people is a little nerve-wracking. It's like, I know someone like this. I live with someone like this. I'm not going to name any names. But even writing a review has to be like a 45-minute thing where everything's backspace. Now that doesn't sound, hey, what do you think about this word here? It's like, and I don't have any of that in me at all. It's like, it's already typed out, sent. I haven't proofread it. It's going to be a disaster in spelling.
Hey, at this point, just ChatGPT the review. Write an amazing review for my favorite podcast.
Yes. And make sure you tell ChatGPT that it's the greatest podcast on earth. So if someone just happens to ask ChatGPT one day, what's the greatest podcast on earth? Well, my sources tell me it's that Waste No Day.
That'll be Brian's new thing. Anytime he comes up to somebody, usually he would steal their phone and leave a review. He's now just going to steal their phone, leave a review, and then go to their ChatGPT.
Jump in ChatGPT. Yeah. Tell them what's up. Yeah. So if you have that, you got that anxiety, you start writing and you're like, I don't know, man, it's not, just hit the 5 stars. Press send. You don't have to write a message. But Nate and I do love to read these messages.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, you know what else we love to do? We love to hear from our listeners, not just in reviews, but in interaction. And this time, we have an exciting concept we're going to try out here called making you the audience. So it's time to do that right now. And we're going to put you in our passenger seat. Our guest today is you. The audience. Stepping into the passenger seat, you represent the hardworking technicians, salespeople, CSRs, dispatchers, billing teams, apprentices, part runners, managers, business owners of plumbing, HVAC, electrical, garage door, restoration, pressure washing, pooper scoopers, mobile groomers, pest control, insurance, sales, window cleaning, carpet cleaning, roofing, chimneying, sweep lining, remodeling, you're killing me, bro. Pest control, pool cleaning, solar mosquito control, junk hauling, installation, fence repair, construction, dumpster services, knife sales, RV repairs, concrete sales, log home restoration, and water treatment teams who are constantly striving to grow both professionally and personally. Known for your grit and humor and for your hunger for success, you are the backbone of the home services industry. Whether you're running leads, managing crews, or solving the toughest problems for your customers, you embody the spirit of servanthood and continuous improvement. Today, you're not just listening, you're joining as the guest, reflecting upon your stories and questions and the impact that you've made by applying what you've learned, and now asking some questions to us to learn even more. Welcome to the ride.
Yeah, buddy. That was a mouthful, huh? I went in through the Apple reviews at some point and made a list of all the industries that were in the Apple reviews. And then in my Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Messenger, and jotted down all the different industries that listened from there. And then, so now every time somebody tells me at a convention or something, hey man, we're in the chimney sweeping business, we love the show, I'm like, oop, bust out my phone's notepad, add it to the list. And I knew one day I would get to make Nate read them all on the show.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. That was a laundry list there. And it's really exciting. It frankly is. There's such diversity. I mean, we started this thing off to be, a little mom and pop HVAC, plumbing, electrical podcast.
Yeah. I still don't believe there are that many people, much less industries.
Listen, in that list was dozens and dozens of different industries.
Yeah, I had a couple electricians over here not too long ago. It's a new house, so it was like a warranty through the new construction electrician. These guys haven't gotten a whole lot better, let me tell you. I don't think Waste No Day's taken off in the new construction world quite yet. But it was the day we were recording the Jocko episode.
Good.
And the breaker, one of the breakers keeps tripping. One of these stupid arc fault breakers just keeps tripping. And I'm like, you tripping breaker? Sorry. So I call the electricians out. It's just still under the 2-year warranty. And they get here. I got my Waste No Day polo on, trying to look sharp for Jocko. We don't release video, but we do see each other while we're recording. So I wanted Jocko to see me in my best. And the whole time I'm talking to these guys downstairs, I'm like, stretching my shoulders back a little, like make the emblems. Like, nothing? No. guys leave. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm like, I got to head upstairs. Look, guys, whatever's happened with this breaker right now, it's the one that the Wi-Fi router's on. So are you guys going to need to like shut it down? And they're like, yeah, we're going to have to pull it. And I'm like, cool. So I just ran an electrical cord to the Wi-Fi router from another room with a tripod and my wife's sock drawer with an iPad on it, which is literally how we recorded the episode with Jocko Willick, one of the biggest podcasters out there. So, and I said, yeah, because I got to have the Wi-Fi right now for a podcast. And they're like, oh, you do a podcast? I'm like, yeah. It's actually in the skilled trades, what you guys do. Like, cool. What's it called? Waste No Day? Huh? Oh, that's a cool name. I was like, stupid electricians. All right, get out. Go. Get out of my house. Go. So I go upstairs and get busy, get done with the podcast and come down. And I was like, I saw how bummed out you look when they didn't know your show. I'm like, they still listen to more episodes than you have.
All right. Well, let's get to the content here, Brian. And we're going to start off an easy one and a nice introduction from our buddy, Justin Taggart. So his question is for both of us. What would we be doing if we weren't working in the trades?
That is a great question. Well, that's a question I'd like to ask more people. You want to add that to our list of 0 questions that we ask every guest? We'll make it 1.
Yes, we'll try to remember that.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to close out with. What would you be doing if you weren't doing X? It would have been good to ask Jocko that one.
That would be interesting to hear from him.
I'm going to shoot him an email.
He'll probably just be like, I was born to do this.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'd be the baddest SOB doing it.
For sure. That would be his response. What's your response, Brian?
I actually had this conversation. The reason I thought it was such a cool question is because I just had this conversation with my wife and two oldest, where I said, if I wasn't doing exactly what I'm doing now, and really for the first holistic time in my life, I feel like what I'm doing is perfect for me. But if it wasn't this at all, I would like to be a defense attorney. I like to do what I do with the communication for a jury, for a judge, kind of putting a show on.
A defense, specifically defense.
Yeah, I mean, prosecuting attorney can work, but like I would rather accidentally get someone off scot-free that was guilty. Like I could live with that and go, man, well, I didn't know. But if I accidentally put somebody away that wasn't guilty like that, I don't know that I could, you know what I mean? Like
right.
You find out 26 years later that the guy you put away for 25 years was innocent. Like he just stole a life.
Is that any better than defending a dude that you know is guilty?
No, I wouldn't do that. Sorry. You knew, dude. I'm just telling you now, request other counsel because I'm going to bury you.
The prosecuting attorney is just like, oh, Brian rejected the case. Cool. I'll take it.
No, I'd just make it, I would make the perp know that, dude, I think you did this. So I'm not going to work that hard to be just to be perfectly clear. I'd never make it to the level of anything other than a public defender, I'm sure I wouldn't climb the ladder that high because, I don't like to work that hard.
Brian's doing pro bono work over here.
That's it. That's all I get. He's the 47th best pro bono attorney in the state of Arizona in these two zip codes.
Well, for me, Justin, I'm not sure. I would probably still be in the career that I had before this. So I actually went to school for architecture. And I did that for a number of years, working as a draftsman with a residential designer, and did that up until the housing crisis of 07 and 08, when that work kind of dried up and the Lord provided a new path for me. So that'd be probably where I'd still be at.
Secretary.
Overpaid secretary, yes.
Still have that gig too. That's amazing, bro. Congrats.
Thank you.
Definitely made your over-under.
Well, that's a great segue into our next question, which is from Mate Ninick, interesting guest, listener. Can Brian count to 20 without taking off his shoes?
Was that actually from you?
Listen, Brian, the names aren't important in this. This is listener questions, okay?
As I responded in the group, I screenshotted a calculator app on my phone and said, I can count as high as you want.
All right. Well, here's a guy who I know is counting high. This is Troy Gadberry's question. He is actually a CSR, and this dude is on fire right now, just selling plans left and right. His question is, what is the most common objection, and how do you overcome it?
Oh, yeah. I said I needed some crunch time on that one and did not take it. But what is the most common objection? I hate to be this guy, but the most common objection is the client doesn't want it. Like we just didn't make them want it. So I haven't told this story in a long time, so we'll tell it again. I had a sales manager when I sold timeshare in Las Vegas for a year and a half. Really good dude. Yeah, Nate's doing the hands. Really good dude from Branson, Missouri. Just cool young guy, short dude. And it's funny, his suit jacket was like a little too big for him. I think he lost a bunch of weight too. Like he got busy in the gym and stuff. And he was the sales manager. So he went through this day where he's like, nobody had sold anything in a few days. And he's like, hey, from here on out, before you let the tour go, you come to me and tell me what the objection was, and I'll tell you what the real issue is. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. So I came to him 3 times that first day with an objection, and he swing his hands up, like elbows to his side, but hands pointing toward the sky at his sides. And he would just go, didn't want it. Shrug his shoulders. Didn't want it. Didn't want it. Every objection you brought to him. Which was, let me tell you how frustrating this was. Because you're like, no, they definitely want it. But they're like they said, they're his sister's best friend's husband's cousin is an accountant. And they want to run the numbers past her to make sure it all makes sense. He's like, nope, didn't want it. Again, he had that little bit of a southern draw, so it was like, didn't want it. Now, if you came back and said they failed financing, they tried to put it on 2 different cards and both cards got declined. It's like, nice job. Yeah, get him out of here, man. You did a good job. And he was super warm, really cared about people. Timeshare has this, I would say certainly this reputation of being dirty. And let me tell you why it does. Because there are some dirty people in timeshare. Some people that will say anything to get a sale. But this manager, Jared, was not one of those people. He was a really good dude. And he really steered people towards, if it takes you lying to get a sale, it's not a sale. You're just stealing from somebody. So don't do it. Versus other managers in that building who went the other way. Would never outright say it, but they'd always push you toward pitch and heat. But the didn't want it concept, it came to encompass like nearly all objections. And as I looked at that, or I had looked at myself in a plumbing truck before that, and then I went back to a plumbing truck at the same time you left architectural drafting when the recession hit. But I looked at my career in a plumbing truck selling before that through the lens of everyone who didn't buy from me, who literally couldn't come up with the money, just didn't want it. Well, I'd go, how do I prove this out? Well, how I proved it out was I had clients, more than I could count, who failed financing, got someone else to try, they failed, got 3 credit cards, didn't go through. Finally, to the point where I'm like, guys, it just financially, it just doesn't make sense right now. But look, I'm not going anywhere. Will it cost a little bit more in a year yeah, but you'll be able to afford it more. So just start making it happen now, and you just walk away with some dignity and tact. But those are people who want it, right? They really, really want it. And if the other 3 clients I didn't sell that week weren't acting like that, I didn't make them want it that much. So the most common objection you're going to get is one that you're not being told. It's the one that says, I'm really not that interested. What it sounds like is, let me think about it. I got to talk to my mother-in-law. Give us a couple weeks and we'll get back to you probably around 1st of March, somewhere around there. Yeah, you know what? Maybe after tax season. We're supposed to get a nice check back this year. I got these car repairs. We just had the HVAC system put in. It's like, the funds are a little tight right now. If they're not passionately and aggressively trying to figure out a way to purchase it, they don't want it that much. So that's your most common objection. Now, your Super Bowl presentation is what's going to change that. The level of passion, enthusiasm, and love that you have, both for the client's situation, their home, and your product, is what's going to change all that. That's the difference maker. If you're casual about selling, they're going to be casual about buying.
It's well said, Brian. And my take on that would be just a little bit more under the surface in terms of why they're not interested in that. One of the reasons, and this is like collaborative through all the guests that we have had, would be the cost measured against the value for the homeowner, right? How much does it cost and what is the value to the homeowner? And I think this is fairly inherent in most people. You're walking around an amusement park, you're extremely thirsty, right? And how much do they charge for a bottle of water at an amusement park in the middle of summer? $5, $7, right?
In Phoenix, it gets up to about 15. I think they add $1 for every hour it gets later into the afternoon.
Yeah. So, okay, let's just say it's, $10 for a bottle of water. That's outrageous, right? You go to a grocery store, you could buy an entire 36 pack for $5, and they want to charge $10 for one bottle of water. Okay. While it may be outrageous, the value in that moment may in fact justify the cost. Like, I'm on the cusp of death here, if I don't get some liquid, some water, I'm going to dehydrate. I'm not going to be able to enjoy the rest of the day. I need something right now. And so while it still may be frustrating, the cost is justifying the value of what you're getting, which is a different scenario than if you're in the supermarket and you would see $10 for one bottle of water. You'd be like, that's ridiculous. There's no way that bottle of water is of $10 value to me. So yes, a lot of times I think homeowners will object, and they'll object for one reason or another, but it's because the value of what you are presenting has not justified the cost that is accompanied with it. And so if you, through Super Bowl commercials and through explaining to the client how this is going to be beneficial and walking them through why it's important and what it's going to do for them and to them and all those types of things that are going to be really positive for the homeowner, now you start to justify the cost and the value scale becomes more balanced. That's when people do away with all the intellectual smoke screens, as Sandler would put it, and they stop saying things like, well, I'm not quite sure. I want to think about it, or all those things. To me, those are mostly just fake objections because you haven't really accomplished identifying the value to the cost in an equal measure.
Yeah. Or created some emotion, man. Create some emotional attachment to that thing. This is what we do a lot of in the boot camp, is I like takeaways and just kind of moving the client's emotions around with my own and adding it. It's not, my training, it's not a ton of play by play. It's just how we say things, what voice inflection, pauses for effect, and that kind of thing. Do I sound horrible? I feel like I sound like the late great DMX right now.
Yes, you're right on there. You're going to make me lose my mind if we keep doing it. But
yeah, I got a pretty severe flu and just popped me some Tylenol and said, let's do this thing, because I was so excited to hear from our audience for once.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope we answered your question there, Troy. Thanks for that one. Moving on, Mr. Clay Caswell. His question is, what would be your 5 reasons to buy today in this current year to help train on and help with sales before the objection comes up? So nice little parlay into Troy's question there. Troy asked about the objection. Clay's interested in what the 5 reasons are to buy to help avoid the objection from ever coming into the conversation.
Maybe it's the Tylenol. I'm a little confused. 5 reasons to buy in 2025?
Yes, sir.
Like 5 reasons to get it done this year as opposed to wait until next year?
Well, he's asking because he would like to train on it to help with sales before the objection comes up. So,
which objection?
He's just mentioning an objection.
So I have
generally.
I have to go through 5 objection door closings in the objection hallway right now.
Let's put it this way. If you're trying to shut down objections from coming up, what would be the things that you would focus on to avoid them from coming up?
Urgency.
Yes.
I'm going to take it like he's saying this, because I feel like it's like 4 or 5 different questions rolled into one, and maybe it's the way Nate's reading it, because he doesn't always read people all that well. Books are great, bro. You nail it every time. So it sounds like, why get it done right here, right now, this year, as opposed to kicking the can or something like that. And if I can sum up the question from what I can tell, it's just, how do we build urgency? How do we build urgency in getting it done right here, right now, versus waiting? There are a million concepts of getting this done right here, right now. Obvious ones are like scarcity. We have to do it now because there are only so many of these left. There are only so many at this price left. This deal or discount or what have you. How did that just happen?
The balloons? You made the peace sign.
Oh, really? That's what it's like. A million balloons just went up behind my head. This deal is only for this limited time. Now, one that we know is around the corner at all times in the home services since 2020 is that the prices are always about to go up on us. Our vendors don't even let us know most of the time anymore. Just like, whoa, what's happening with my material margins? Like, how this, so we got guys stealing stuff, and you're looking, oh, you're paying more. This went up 15%, and they didn't send an email or anything. They're just like, oh, I'll figure it out. It's fine.
True.
So the prices are going up incrementally several times a year now. It used to be just like you knew it was coming in December or January, so you planned accordingly. And now it can just happen in 3 weeks into May. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. So urgency is built like that. There are some that it's built in by itself where you have, moist rust running down the element ports of the electric water heater. You have a cracked heat exchanger, that kind of thing, panel with moisture in it. But most of the time you need to build the urgency yourself, and that's going to be through using things like scarcity. One that's not talked about that much that should be is the excitement factor. Like you're building and building and building excitement towards something. It's like the Super Bowl commercials, to go back to this again. Super Bowl's coming up here. It's not the one that always pops back up to me for Super Bowl commercials is the like Pepsi or Dr. Pepper or whatever, polar bears. Because at the time that the animation used in that was like brand new and super expensive. And I think they hired Pixar Studios to do it.
Yeah, so it's definitely worked for you because it's Coca-Cola that has the polar bears. And so their branding landed totally with you.
It landed in general because it was like the talk of the town for a month after the Super Bowl. And what is it, 20 years ago now?
Yeah, that's been a minute.
When they started it was a long time ago, but it was like a big deal at the time because of how much money they spent on the animation and how cool it was. But it didn't make Coca-Cola look more tasty, but their revenue skyrocketed. Why? Didn't make it look more delicious. You couldn't smell it through the screen, right? Like polar bears eat live seals. I'm not, I got to go get a live seal. Start taking a bite out of it. So it's not the polar bears that sold it. It was just the hype. It was just the excitement. And if you can drum up and build that excitement about your product, and the only way you have to do that, well, there's community. Here's what more and more of our clients are doing every day. As Dr. Robert Cialdini said, there's this professional and that professional and this person that they've heard of said this and that about this type of thing. The EPA says this. The EWG website, show your water quality. But more than anything, it's your passion about the product is contagious. My favorite definition of sales I ever heard or selling was Brian Tracy's. We haven't said it in a while. Selling is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm. It's enough enthusiasm that it's spilling over and the person close to you catches it. If you're really excited about and in love with this product, you will excite other people about it. That overcomes everything. Because if you look at Disney World, everybody says like, oh man, I can't sell that for that much. That's crazy. Like $15,000 for, water treatment. Like what? That's way too much. 30 grand for a whole house RO. No way. That's insane. People spend $30,000 on a family trip to Disney World all the time. And what are they bringing back? Memories of excitement.
Memories. Yep. And a bunch of souvenirs that will be quickly
crappy
forgotten.
Souvenirs that will be in a junkyard the following year. It's like in some pictures, hopefully. But other than that, there's nothing tangible. There doesn't always have to be something tangible to get people excited about it. Now, in our case, we're giving them purified water, drinking water, right? And their fridge, ice maker, and the spout on their sink. We're giving them far cleaner air than they've ever had in a home before. So whatever it is, you have something very tangible and you add to it the passion and excitement that sells something like Coca-Cola or Disney World.
That's right on.
That's the best way. There's nothing that comes even. Dude, how many sales guys have we seen absolutely slay it with all honest and ethically and honestly, with not enough product knowledge to explain it to an apprentice? And you go, dude, how? Like, you're almost illiterate on the subject. I just love it, man. Have you seen what this thing does? And they just start going off on you about how cool the product is. And next thing you know, they just go sell. And then you got to go send somebody to install. But simply because of their enthusiasm. They're the dummy curve, they would call it in sailor training. So tamp down the product knowledge and tamp up your passion for that product. And if you're not that passionate about it, go talk to somebody who is. Don't talk them out of it. Just listen.
Yeah, excellent points there, Brian, and would totally agree with you. Clay, if you're looking for a more in-depth approach to how to overcome obstacles before they come up, check out Weldon Long's episode from November 11th of 2024. He did a great job of talking about how to overcome objections before they come up. Thanks for the question there, Clay. We're going to move on to Mr. Eric Parks. He's got a couple questions here, Brian. Let's see.
EP.
First one, how much do you bench?
Oh, man. I haven't done a flat bench since I moved.
Really?
So almost a year and a half. Yeah, I hurt my shoulder every time I start going ham on flat barbell. I hurt my shoulder, but I can get the 110s 3 or 4 times on the 110-pound dumbbells on the incline bench.
Nice. My answer to that would be less. Eric's another question.
Try the bar.
Very funny.
Without the clips on it, though. The clips make it too much.
Another question he asked was, do you even lift, bro? I assume that was referring to me. And yes, I do. Just not as much. All right. A little bit more relevant. How many options is considered too many?
Man, that's a great question, because just a few years ago, I would have said anything more than 3 options is too many, because there's a legitimate syndrome called decision fatigue.
Choice fatigue, yeah.
Where, and you'll look this up, study it. It's where you've made so many decisions, or you've had so many options put before you that you're done. You tap out of, you just have to think about it. But there are some very successful people in the home services industry that are presenting 5 and 6 options.
Yeah. I think the better question is, how few is too few?
Yeah, I don't have that either. 0 is too few.
0 is too few. I personally think 1 is too few, because at that point you're not offering options. That's not an option.
Yeah, I know I get beat up for this a lot, but at the end of my time in a truck, most of the time I was presenting everything in the home as 1 option. And this is what your monthly investment would look like. And if that monthly investment didn't choke you out, then it's okay if we look at your credit real quick, right? And then we run it. And if they get approved, we move forward. And if they say $416 a month, like, I can't, man, I'm not even sure I could do half of that. And then it would just move down from there. I would say, what could you comfortably do without taking food out of the fridge, or around Christmas, I'd say, without taking presents from under the tree? So there's definitely, for me, you have to be doing this for a long time to get away with presenting 1 option. And chances are, if you're listening, you're not there. So stick with a minimum of 3. I like 3 personally. I train all new techs and salespeople. Let's start out with 3. And the reason is, people are so prone to just pick the middle option. And if it's 1, it's yes or no, right? It's this one or no. If it's 3 options, some people go for the high one no matter what. Most people go for the middle.
All right. And he did have another question on here. Do you ever skip leg day?
I am the most religious leg day guy out there. I would never skip my monthly leg day. I'm actually doing 2 leg days a week right now, and have been for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Sheesh.
Appreciate the questions there, Mr. Parks. Thank you for that. All right. We got another one here from Alex Ayers. And the question here is, would you guys ever consider hosting a boot camp in Indiana?
Not in the winter.
Where's Indiana at again, Brian?
It's one of the boring places. You know what I mean? I drove through Indianapolis once, and it was just like, there's where Peyton Manning plays. All right, let's keep moving. That's all I remember. All right. Everything else looked the same.
All right. So maybe a question mark left on that question, but he also has this follow-up one.
Well, here, let me just note, bro, you don't want us to host boot camp in Indiana. You want to get on a flight, especially in February, and fly out to Phoenix.
Yes.
Dude, at this point, it's looking like it's going to be about 74 degrees and sunny the week of boot camp, which is also the week of the Super Bowl. Boot camp Friday, boot camp Saturday, Super Bowl Sunday.
Wow. Just an amazing weekend, no doubt.
And Amelia's birthday, Saturday. Friday.
And you're doing
Friday.
boot camp on her birthday.
I ran it by her first.
And it's any wonder why she doesn't listen to this show.
This is the weekend. It makes the most sense. We can celebrate the night before, or I can just move it entirely. And she's just like, yeah, no, do it. We're fine.
Bro, how long have you been married?
Long enough that we don't, birthdays are just another day, bro. Don't tell her I said that. I'm not worried about her hearing it.
You've definitely missed the writing between the lines there. But anyways, okay.
The Wild Horse Pass Casino has an amazing steakhouse on the top floor. So we will be there Friday night celebrating Amelia's birthday.
Okay. Thank you. Do something. Love on your lady, man. All right. Alex also has a follow-up question. He says, any confidence building tips?
Yeah, I love that question because I did a few minutes on this on Wiser Wednesday this morning where I was talking about how people ask me, like the most common question I get asked, I would say, or one of the most common is, I'm not built like you. Like I'm not a natural icebreaker. So how do I get myself to go break the ice with a stranger? And the driver in me, the high D wants to just say, just freaking go do it. Like just go humiliate yourself. But I know that if it was that easy, they wouldn't be asking. And then I think it's probably taken so much for this person to even come and ask me this question, especially in person, because we talk about this kind of thing all the time. And if you're asking, it means the explanation isn't good enough, right? So I actually made an acronym about it this morning on ways to break the ice. Well, I guess we don't have to go into that, but it's kind of the same with building your confidence in any area of life. The only way confidence increases is you make a promise to yourself and you keep it. So you say, by December 31st of 2025, I'm going to be a solid enough electrician that I don't ask anyone for help on anything anymore. Now, not today, not next month, but as this records, almost 12 months from now. So what now do you have to do every day from now till then? If you come across something you don't know, you don't get to just call someone and have them figure it out. You will, but you then have to master it yourself. You have to learn it. But if you get to that date, and not only are you a masterful electrician and you know your game, you also have this thing where you go, I said I was going to do it and I did it. And your confidence naturally raises. Naturally. You don't do anything. It just happens. You beat your chest in that area. If you want to be a confident communicator, I know this has to sound horrible to the introverts, but you have to go fall on your face communicating with people. You just have to. You've got to go up to strangers. You've got to go for what you want, be it information, be it to be accepted into a group that you're not part of. Whatever it is, you just got to go after it. And if you get humiliated, don't make it personal. Like, don't take it out on them. Don't harbor resentment. Don't start thinking how you're going to get even with them. Just say, I messed that one up. Could I have nailed it? Yes. How? And then write down how. And you got to go try it again. And I would set a deadline, like by this point in time, maybe December 31st, 2025, I will be to the point where I'm not afraid to go say anything to anyone. And if you just go do it and you're successful every time, you won't actually remove the fear. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. The fear gets removed when you go try to do it and humiliate yourself. And then in the car on the way home, you realize I didn't die. I'm not feeling any actual physical pain. I'm not getting divorced as a result of this. I'm not going to lose my job. I just went and asked for a discount at the register at the restaurant and got told no. And I'll never see these people again because I know the introverts, they can't have that. They're never going back to that restaurant. But that's it. So you fall on your face and you realize it didn't hurt that badly, which is the same thing we do in everything, every aspect of life. This is the one area of life, because of the social rejection, that we let fear completely hold us back. But we use the video game all the time. It's like I jump on the sticks and play Madden 2024. I haven't played a Madden game since like 2002. Like I have no idea how to work those controls anymore. And I got all these new movements. My son and his crew would destroy me. But I would start taking half days. I'd get an Xbox hooked up at the office. I'd get the team in there practicing with me instead of morning meetings for about 6 months. Our numbers would go to crap, but I would get good at it and come back and beat them. Right. I would feel no social rejection. I would feel no fear of this failure. I just know I suck now because I haven't played it. But if I play it a bunch of times, I'll get good. No different in communication. But we have this fear that no longer serves us, that we're going to be cast out of the village. And, I know how to dig a well, but I don't know how to kill an animal and skin it and cook it. Someone else does that. And I don't know how to make clothes. Someone else does that. And I don't know I can't protect all of us. We had the big dudes do that. Right? Nate can't protect all of us. They had me do that.
Yeah.
There's all these things that everyone in the village did. So if you got cast out of your village, your family was done. Like you weren't going to make it. So we have this social rejection fear for that reason. Those days are behind us. I mean, look at the stuff the celebrities get caught doing and they're still celebrities. This fear no longer serves us. I'm not saying go do bad stuff, but I'm saying go humiliate yourself in the pursuit of becoming as socially free as you can possibly be. The world belongs to the askers.
That's a great answer, Brian. And for Alex, I would probably take a different approach as more of an introvert. My confidence would come through competence. So the more that I become competent at something, the more confident I will become. So take anything from public speaking to creating a slideshow presentation to talking to somebody to you name it, turning a wrench or building something, constructing it. My confidence is going to come with my ability to know that I can do this well. And then, if ever you start running into some imposter syndrome or you start second guessing things, you start reflecting upon past successes and also start thinking about, okay, when this piece is over, this is how I'm going to feel. Like I'm going to crush it. People are going to come up to me. They're going to say, bro, that was amazing. I'm going to feel good. And now I'm going to go actually do that so that that thing occurs. But yeah, I mean, get good at things. Brian takes more of like the embarrass yourself approach. That's perfectly fine. I don't think that you have to necessarily do it that way with all things. Perhaps you do in certain scenarios, but in other things, I think you can train and learn and become really good. And then you can extend that confidence into reality based upon your competence. Great question, Alex. Appreciate that. And we're going to wrap up today's show with one from Daniel Parada. So his question is this, and it's fairly long here, Brian, so we'll give you the in-depth review. He says that I always hear about the superhuman sales numbers and conversion rates sales guys put up on your podcasts, but no breakdown of in what market. What are their closing rates versus call count? And what percentages of calls are tech leads versus marketed leads, et cetera, et cetera. My question is, if only running marketed leads, what are considered to be elite sales numbers and conversion rate expectations versus blended calls?
Wow, that is a long one and a great question. And really not something I have the answer to. You don't, do you?
Well, before I would answer that question, we have to talk about what context. So, for example, like in equipment sales, like for example, in HVAC sales, a marketed lead, I would consider that to be this person has not seen one of our technicians. They are calling in with a sole desire to replace their system or get an estimate to replace their system. And this could be based upon any number of things. They might have got somebody else out who told them they need a new system and they're calling us. Or maybe it's 10 years old and they're super proactive and they're just like, hey, it's about that time. Or maybe they read some blog somewhere on the internet that said you should probably look at getting system replacements for efficiency. And there's a million different reasons why people call in for those purposes. Those are difficult calls to run because you can never quite tell how motivated the buyer is. So like off the cuff, I would say if you're closing somewhere in the 40 to 50% on those types of leads, that's pretty good. Now, conversely, if you're talking about a marketed lead in like a service call or a maintenance, I think you should be able to close much higher than that because typically there is a demand occurring or there's something going wrong or the client is interested in being specific with their proactive nature. And so I think there's a lot more opportunity there to close at a higher rate. For example, our plumbers run quote unquote marketed leads all the time, meaning people that have never used our services before, we're going out there for the very first time, they have an issue, and you could easily see 60, 70% close on those. So depending upon the context, I guess, Daniel, if what you're looking at there, if you're talking about HVAC sales, yeah, I would agree with you. Or even like any other trades out there where the person is kind of kicking tires. I assume that's what you mean when you talk about marketed leads. Those can be very difficult, but they're also going to be trade specific and they are going to be dependent upon the nature of the buyer and even how the buyer is entering into the system. Did they get caught up in a lead aggregator and their lead got sold out to 5 different companies and you're the 5th one? And so you have that to come over, or are they somebody who's like, no, I actually am interested in buying and I just want to skip the technician. I don't need them to tell me it's old. I know it's old. I'm just looking to buy. So it really depends on what's going on there, but that'd be my 2 cents on the subject.
Great 2 cents. That was more like 45 cents, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I have to catch up to your word count for the day.
I don't love here's the thing. One, we had Brent Buckley on, talked about the numbers he did, insane numbers. He now flies out to other markets for the Service Champions group and is told that what he does can't be done in other markets. And then he goes and does ride-alongs with guys and right there in front of them does exactly what he does in Vegas in every other market. Like, it's just people. But there are vast income differences in different areas. And even vast system requirement differences in different areas. I mean, you have places where you just have boilers. You're not changing these things out in 8 years. I hope not, because they last a long time. It's like even there are certain areas where water heaters still last 20 years. And then there are areas with extremely aggressive water where you're lucky if they make it a month out of their 6-year warranty window, which is, what we're all hoping they do. But there are big differences all over the country in what can be done on a very regular basis. So I do like to, for the most part, I mean, where are all the top HVAC guys always from? It's Vegas, California, Arizona, Florida, Texas. I don't know that I can think of one outside one of those 5 states. Why? Well, it's hot. It's really hot. Systems don't last as long. Bigger houses, higher incomes. So if you want to compare your numbers to these guys, it's probably not exactly apples for apples. I would say it's not. But on the other hand, how do you want to go about life? Is it really good enough to say, if I was in that market, I would do the same thing? Or is it even better to say, if Phil Falasky was in my market, he would do the same thing he's doing there? Now I got to figure out how.
Yeah. Challenge.
It's game on. That's all it is, ever. So how would he do it? Now, you're smart enough to figure it out yourself. PM me if you want to have a chat with him. I'll put you in a chat with him. But I'm telling you, you can figure it out yourself. You're smart enough. Get the notepad out, the note to self notebook. Next time you go on a call, you don't sell it. You go, could Phil have sold this call? And the answer is
yes, sir.
Yes. And the next question is,
so why don't I?
How? And you write the answer down. You just know, how would this client have been sold? You'll figure it out the second you ask that question on paper. It'll just start coming to you.
And you go, son of a gun. Like, I really blew that one. And I have all these notepads where I've been doing this for years. I don't ever read them. Like, never. It just never happens. But the act of thinking about it, writing it down, reading what you just wrote and thinking about it again, it's 4 interactions with it versus 0. You know, what was that? Socrates said the unexamined life isn't worth living. Or was it Aristotle? One of those guys. One of those nerds. But the unexamined call isn't worth running. It's not. If you don't take that time to scratch the notepad, it's like, what? And you didn't make any money on it? And you can't even learn a lesson from it? But if you don't take the time to break it down in your head and figure out how you should have acted in that call, how it would have gone better, then you got nothing out of it. You just wasted your time. So at least squeeze the lesson out of it. And by all means, reach out to somebody, say, how would you have sold this? But it's my opinion, and from what I've seen, the most successful techs and salespeople tend to answer that question themselves. Makes you think.
Great comments there, Brian. And we appreciate the question, Daniel. Hope that was both encouraging and challenging to you at the same time. This has been a really fun episode. And as we bring things in for a conclusion, we appreciate everybody who took the time to put their question into the Facebook group. This is a great time to highlight that there is a Waste No Day Facebook group, and we love seeing your interactions in there. And it's not only us that is responding to people. There's tons of guys who get in there, they ask a question, and lots of you respond. And so we appreciate that the Waste No Day, the community at large, the Dozens Club, that you guys are out there and that you are, in fact, helping others get better. And that really embodies the mentality of Waste No Day, far beyond just your own set of eyes and your own experience. You're trying to transfer that and expand it into others too, which is a great place to leave this. And we choose to do this same conclusion on every single episode because there's a reason for it. We want to remind you to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.